Morning, John.
Hey, Luke. Hey, everyone.
Looks like we're getting a few attendees in, which is great to see. Welcome everybody who's jumped in at the moment. Glad to see you've all taken the time out to spend some time with us today to learn more about how Barracuda can help you become and sell cyber as a service. So what's the time over there, John?
In New York, so about 7 p.m.
Oh, nice. Thanks for joining us and making yourself available today. I'm sure all the attendees will get a lot out of today. So what's the weather like over there?
Cold. Something that I don't like. Yeah, not
Mate,
terrible today, but yep.
We've got stormy weather over here when 30 degrees, so very nice day over here.
Yeah, not too dissimilar over here. So
perfect.
Times like this, I should be down in Miami. So
that would be nice. Luckily, it's not too hot for you over there.
Yep.
I guess key thing is while everybody's joining, we're just going to give a little bit of time so everybody can join in. But I just wanted to reiterate how excited we are on Barracuda MSP that the Scout team have joined us. I think it's a really exciting product to add to our portfolio. And obviously for all our partners out there, it's a great opportunity for them to, increase their security services for their customers and, let Barracuda help do some of that heavy lifting for them. How have you found the change over?
Yeah, Barracuda. So yeah, it's been great so far, and a lot of good stuff to come in the future as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, no, it's been great from our side as well. Obviously, you've only been a part of the family for such a short time, but already in that time, we've learned a lot, and we've actually helped a lot of the APAC partners with, handling some of their security concerns. So that's been really good to see.
Yep, it's definitely a hot topic. XDR security in general for small and medium-sized businesses is definitely a big deal, big topic.
Yep. Now, just to get through some housekeeping while we've got some people online, want to thank you all for joining. We certainly appreciate your attendance. You can ask any of the panelists any of the questions throughout the actual presentation. Feel free to chuck them in through the Q&A function. And obviously at the end, we'll help go through those in more detail and answer some of those questions for you. And probably the key thing is to stay tuned until the end of the presentation, as we do have a special offer available for everybody who attends today as well. So I think we'll just give it another minute and hopefully everybody should be in, and then we'll get this underway if everybody's cool with that.
And we've been doing this, sort of remote thing for a while. So we got to play the game of what's your background? So hello, what is that where you're located over there?
Yeah, so I'm located in Brisbane, and obviously the picture behind me is one of our most famous landscapes, Story Bridge.
Nice.
So we light it up with all different colours depending upon what's going on around the world, to show solidarity, support of people in other countries. So whilst that bridge looks a beautiful blue-green, I have seen reds, yellows, purples, pink, especially for breast cancer in Australia. We do a lot of stuff around pink hats, and pink being the breast cancer thing. And obviously when those events come up, we light that bridge up as well.
Very nice.
And you're in the wonderful Barracuda office. It's always nice.
They are very nice, very luxurious.
Yep.
Virtual.
So I guess, perfect. I guess what we'll do is we'll start to get this underway. I can see we've got over 20 attendees, and I guess just to get this started again, I just want to thank everybody for taking their time today to learn more about what Barracuda and Scout are doing, especially in the MSP space. Hopefully today we want to teach you a little bit more about how to sell cyber as a service. Now you have both myself, Luke Smith, I'm the Regional Account Director for Barracuda, located in the APAC region, and joining us from the awfully cold New York at the moment is John Danino. So John, do you want to take a second just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. John Danino, Manager of Sales Engineering. As we alluded to before, I came over as part of the Scout acquisition with Barracuda. So like I mentioned, it's been great so far. Been a ride, and we got a lot of good stuff to look forward to as well. So like tonight, like we'll be doing some hacking demos. So should be real informative for everyone.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I guess what we'll do is we'll start to get this process underway. So once again, thanks everybody for joining us. So I guess the first thing we want to do was just take you through a little bit of the sales process related to the Barracuda Scout product, just to help you get a better understanding of what we offer and how we actually can help our MSP partners in order to sell the products that we now have available for you to buy and supply it to your customers. So to get that underway, probably the key thing that we really do is, one thing about what we offer is we're very big on giving you the assets you need to help you grow your business. So the key thing to remember here is the presentation that I'm presenting today is a tool that is available to Barracuda Scout partners. You can obviously emblazon and brand this presentation up as you see fit. And obviously then you can go out and hopefully learn to present to your customers and have a more in-depth conversation about where their security posture is set, and obviously the journey you're wishing to take them upon in order to improve that security posture. You know, we've obviously all seen the increase in threats over the recent 12 to 18 months. And this is a tool that's designed to help both MSPs and your end users get a better understanding and visibility of what's going on inside their network. So to give you an idea, you know, why security is such a hard problem to solve. You know, I guess the key thing we really want to point out here and give you guys a little bit of an understanding about is a little bit about the cybersecurity landscape that's currently going on at the moment. I guess the key thing that we're seeing all around the world, and it doesn't really matter where you reside, where your business is operating out of, or where you're operating in, we've seen a massive shortage of talent across the channel, especially in the cybersecurity space. I believe cybersecurity is one of the only markets where we've actually got a negative impact on employment. So there's far more roles that outweighs the possible participants who are able to work in that market. I think the key thing to understand from here is, you know, as you can see here, these shortages extend all over the world. You know, APAC has over 2.5 million jobs that are advertised. And I guess the key thing we need to look at is how, as MSPs, can we build these services, supply these services to our customers, and be able to actually deliver them both profitably and offer the value that we're looking for out of the products. So what we've kind of understand is it's very difficult for SMBs to measure their cyber risk as well. You know, as we mentioned, there is that global shortage of staff, the global shortage of talent, and then obviously the other risk with that is once you do gain those staff and that talent is being able to hold them. There's a lot of opportunities for those people out there in the market. What we've done is we've built a product that probably covers what we consider to be the most common problems that we're seeing in the market. And we're finding that they really come from things like phishing, ransomware, and probably something that we don't think about a lot, but is starting to become more important, especially in the APAC region. We're starting to see more regulations and compliance requirements needed. So I guess what we've done is we've built our offerings to help you solve those problems. And what we've done is with that solution is we've built a solution that we believe is high value, low cost, easy to use, and let us do the legwork for you. You know, there's no need for you to go out and build your own SOC teams, you know, try to retain that talent, hire that talent, when you can partner with Barracuda and Scout, and we can actually help you deliver that service profitably. We can give you the reporting metrics so you can supply the information back to your clients. And the other thing is we can help you sleep at night knowing that you've got Barracuda Scouts team supporting you in the back end, looking after you 24/7, 365 days of the year. So as I mentioned, we've had a shortage of talent, but at the same time that this has all been going on, we've seen a massive increase in the data creation at every company. In fact, I know we say this nearly every year, but in the past 3 years, more data has been created since the beginning of time. You know, we're also seeing that businesses have more complexity to deal with when it comes to trying to secure their environments. You know, you think back to 3 or 4 years ago, where previously most of our staff or our customers resided in premises. Those premises were protected by big fences, security alarms. You know, they had firewalls deployed. You know, the last 18 months, we've seen that perimeter move. You know, people are working from home. People are working from McDonald's. People are working from various locations. We don't have the same amount of, I guess what we're trying to point out here is that the actual threat vector and the susceptibility to an attack has actually increased. Your role as an MSP has had to increase as well. You've gone from looking after people with an on-prem solution to looking after people who are now all residing at home. The actual threat vectors that our customers are now open to are more open than they ever have been in the past. And I guess the biggest thing we are starting to see, and something that needs to be identified, is regardless of the size of the business, that attack service is growing. And obviously it's growing as we're connecting to more and more devices. And work from home has obviously made that more difficult. Now, this slide's one that gets me every time. I had no idea that we've had mobile phones now for 13, 14 years, smartphones. Something that I thought had been around for a lot longer, but as we can see here, 2007 was the launch of that. And I think what this slide does is really give you an idea about how the cybersecurity landscape has changed in the last 20 years. And I guess what I'm looking forward to seeing is how this is going to change in the next 20 years moving forward. Internet of everything is something that's coming through right now. It's definitely pushing, and everybody would have multiple devices or appliances that are connected to the internet in one way or another. So something we've realized over our time as we've been building up is that we're seeing that 99.99% of all attacks are very similar. And what we believe is that some basic cyber hygiene can actually help you take care of the majority of your problems and obviously have you prepared for the future. One of the things we do like to highlight is obviously the cybersecurity CIA. Generally, what we find is the bad attackers, bad actors are looking to try and attack us in one of three different ways. Generally, they're looking to get your identity, whether it's through a business email compromise attack, a login, Office 365 login, or even logging into various different applications and services that your business may use. The second one we see quite well is the bad attackers are looking to execute something, whether it's executing something on your endpoint, executing something on your network. They're looking to actually get involved and be able to execute, execute bad situations, which result in us as the MSP having to go out and repair that. And probably the third and the last one we're seeing is denial of service. The key point to say with the denial of service is it's all about stopping your availability. It's all about them stopping you from being able to talk or work with the tools that we're currently using today. And I think the key thing to remember there, especially with the denial of service, is we need to take a look at how many apps, products our customers are using nowadays. I think I read a report just recently with Gartner. We're up to, most business people are using up to 32 various different applications within their business now. So there's obviously a lot of work for you to be able to have the visibility to be able to see what's going on within the organization and also being able to protect those applications. I guess the key thing that most people want to know and what we do here is we believe as business owners, you need to think about securing the CIA. It's about securing the data and the systems that you care most about. The confidentiality, integrity, and availability of those services that you offer to your clients and your customers are really key to keeping their businesses running. And the challenge for us as MSPs is to have that visibility of what's actually going on within the network. I think a question we should all be asking ourselves today is, could we certainly say 100% that our customers do not currently have bad attackers in on their network? And I guess the question is if they do, how are we actually going to be able to see them and then obviously remediate them out of that network? Knowing well and truly that the average time that a bad attacker lives inside our network can be 180 days plus, which scares the living daylights out of me, because when you think about that, that's half a year, close to 6 months. That gives those bad attackers the opportunity to do reconnaissance on your business for that period of time, where they can learn things about your business, such as the way your customers email. So they're learning the language that you use internally with your emails. Hence why we're seeing these phishing emails get so much better and so much smarter and so much better looking than what they were 12 to 18 months ago. In that period, they're going to see payroll runs. They're going to see multiple invoice runs. And that's part and parcel of what's making this so successful for these attackers. And then obviously not to mention the fact that they can monetize that at the end. So they're able to make a living out of these attacks that they're now performing against our customers. So what I might do now is I'll actually hand over to John to actually go through some of our recommended cyber hygiene for business. He'll go through this a little bit of detail. What I would love to recommend to anybody on the presentation, this is definitely a slide you should be taking a screenshot of. There's some really relevant information here, and John will go through it in a bit more detail to actually, give you a bit more understanding of what we're trying to do and how we actually deliver this service to our customers.
Yep. Thanks, Luke. Yeah. So recommended cyber hygiene for businesses. Kind of broke them out into 5 points here. First one being establishing what you want to protect. I see this as sort of having an inventory of all your assets. Sometimes we run into situations where we don't know what we have, or clients don't know what they have, and if you don't know what you have, how are you supposed to protect that, right? So having some sort of inventory of those critical devices, applications, really anything that's used within the organization, right? Money and time are not infinite resources, so establishing what you want to protect starts by knowing that, having that documented. And that sort of leads us into that second point of, well, now that we know what is within the environment or the organization, we want to build concentric rings of security around that data, right? So maybe in your inventory, you had your firewalls in there, your servers, your endpoints. Maybe there's a file server with critical data on it, right? And what if one of the pieces of technology that you have in place fails, right? That's where those concentric rings of security come into play, right? If the firewall fails, is there something else downstream that's going to pick up on that, right? Because no technology is perfect, and there are vulnerabilities, new vulnerabilities that come out every day. So again, having that layered approach there. And you need to know if you have a problem. That brings us to number 3, right? And that's sort of really where we come into play at Barracuda Scout, is providing that continuous monitoring, because you can't fix a problem that you don't know you have, right? And your systems today that are in good standing might not be that way tomorrow. So doing that consistent monitoring is key there.
That sort of all relates to those bad attackers living in that network for 180 plus days.
Yep.
Do you see that quite often?
Yeah. Like you said, on the average, it is that long. It's not typically a smash and grab operation anymore. Of course, you'll run into a few situations, but for the most part, like you mentioned before, Luke, right? They're going in there, they're infiltrating the environment, the network, and then really scoping out the place, right? Looking at, let's say, compromising the email, figuring out how emails flow back and forth, or what sort of the style is of everyone, or really just snooping around and finding out where are those critical assets and where can we hop, where can we move laterally throughout the network to get to what we really want. And I think we even have a slide coming up that's going to go through sort of how an attacker moves through that to get what they want, which is typically data, right? And then taking response time down. So if we're monitoring that and we pick up something in maybe 20 minutes versus 20 weeks, we're significantly bringing down response time, right? And that can be the difference in something getting out and becoming a bigger problem, or remediating that instantly, right? And then 5 is really, go for it.
Sorry about that, John. I think that's actually really important, is taking that response time down, especially considering in Australia, the fact that we have to report any incidents that occur at our customer sites. So I'm guessing, as well as giving you the visibility, it's also going to give you the information that you need to help you fill in those reports that we need to supply the government to actually outline it. And the last thing that we probably all forget about, and it's something that I think is starting to actually resonate within the channel, is when you have that incident, and if you don't take that response time down and you do have to report it, we really need to start thinking about the brand of your business and the brand of the organization that you're protecting. I read a recent report on cybersecurity insurance, where they're starting now to see changes to that. They're asking partners now to do more in relation to securing their network, more in I guess probably the better word is a shared service. And I guess the key thing is that by taking that down, we can help avoid some of those branding problems that'll happen. And as I mentioned with the cyber insurance policies, a lot of the cost of those cyber insurance policies is actually working with the partner to help remediate that brand damage that is done.
Yeah, that's it, right? We've worked with companies before who have contained an issue by responding quickly, and there was no reputation loss, right? So you don't have to worry. It's not just about the monetary loss or the data loss, right? It's that reputation, right? Because your clients trust you, and if you have sort of one of these incidents, that trust erodes away, and that could be worth even more than maybe the money that was stolen or the data that was stolen, right? It's really that reputation loss that means a lot. Yeah, and that often gets overlooked. And a lot of those cyber insurance policies require sort of root cause analysis after it's done, right? Which is another thing that we offer, right? If something does happen, of course, providing that quick response to it, right? And then having all of the details, because we're collecting so much data in order to alert on this type of thing. Well, we can play that back and do sort of that root cause analysis to to provide that documentation of everything that had happened and when it happened. Yeah, great points there.
It's all about making the MSP's life easier, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And giving them the tools to be able to answer those hard questions.
Yep, just a little bit, right? Really
Perfect.
Providing that. It's like bolting on that security team, for a small monthly fee versus, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the top talent that's out there, right? And like you said before, retaining that training and all that stuff. So, yeah.
I also like to think of you guys as being my insurance policy. As an MSP owner, knowing that Barracuda Scout's looking after my network and monitoring what's going on, hopefully that means I can sleep on the weekend rather than worrying about my customers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. You got it. It's all about the partnership, right? It's not going direct to client or anything like that, channel only, and really being a partner with our MSPs. So yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I'll let you get back to point 5.
Yeah, no, great chat there. So yeah, last one up, point 5 is picking a framework, right? And one that typically covers the people, process, and technology. So one that many might have heard of is NIST. It's one that we run into frequently, but there's tons out there. CMMC, ISO 27001. There's quite a few out there, but picking a framework that's really going to help guide you, right? And it's going to give you that baseline, right? So where do I need to focus? I need to worry about my perimeter, right? So having some sort of maybe intrusion detection, making sure there's some sort of endpoint in place, or spam protection, right? Those sorts of things. Having a disaster recovery plan, right? Picking a good cybersecurity framework is really going to help guide you. And really, NIST is, I guess, popular because it's open, right? There's no paywall behind that, and you can just Google it and find out what the criteria of that framework is, and it really does guide you. So yeah, picking a framework. Awesome. And then speaking of, I mentioned before, looking at what or how attackers hack, right? The anatomy of an attack. So it all starts with the attacker, and they're going to try and get into the systems. And that usually comes in the form of an email, right? That's sort of the number one way that this happens. Depending on the source that you're looking at, I've seen upwards of 90% of data breaches happen from email, and that's where most malware gets spread, and of course, phishing. But the goal is to get a person inside that organization to click on that, right? So systems over to people, getting someone to click that. What happens when they click? Well, that's going to execute something typically on the endpoint, right? Trying to gain that foothold. And then from the endpoint, it's going to move laterally throughout the network, especially when you talk about ransomware. That tends to move laterally and wants to spread it to other systems. And then here we are showing sort of, I guess you could call command and control communication. So that endpoint that's now been infected that needs to reach back out to a C2 server or the attacker, where it's going to get the commands of what to do, or in the case of ransomware, retrieve that encryption key, that unique encryption key. And then the next step there is gaining identity, right? So we want to maybe increase our privileges, for example, right? And that goal is to get to a higher level of privilege, because that person who has a higher level of privilege most likely has access to the data, which is what they're after. And you can see that there in the middle. And then, of course, after that, once they get their hands on the data, that is when they go ahead and sell that on the dark web, right? Or hold that for ransom, or ruin your reputation, right? So hopefully that was insightful for everyone to sort of see how the attackers do this, what they're thinking of. Awesome. Yeah, and then you're getting a quick look at the XDR Suite by Barracuda Scout. Mail protection. So I guess before we get into that, really just covering the common vectors of attack. So email, right? First line of defense. O365 monitoring. So looking at those authentication logs, really big, or when it comes around to the email rules. Endpoint protection, of course, another huge layer, especially when you talk about ransomware, which is, of course, a very hot topic. Those three get bundled into what we call our work from home security bundle. And then the other two are network security monitoring, which is, of course, how it sounds, monitoring that network traffic, running that through an intrusion detection system. And then finally, log security monitoring, where we're tapping into those devices and services that are already in place, right? Maybe getting syslog from firewalls and logs from an Active Directory server, endpoint logs, right? All of that critical infrastructure and where that critical data is being stored. All right. And we'll move along here to, the dashboard overview. So everything that we do comes into our dashboard, and this is going to give you that visibility. It's basically a single pane of glass. All data that we're collecting flows, of course, into our SIM first. We do the processing, and then, of course, that goes over to the dashboard that you're looking at now. And this is not only going to have the data, but it's self-service installation. So you want to set up a new data source, you just set up your AWS CloudTrail, no problem. Hop over to the integration section, documentation's right there, generate those API keys, pop those in, and you're good to go. And then that real-time analytics and reports. So reporting functionality, huge, especially when proving value or showing value. It's very popular with quarterly business reviews, right? Got a lot of feedback from our current partners. I get to generate a nice pre-canned report from Barracuda Scout that really proves the value, shows how many alarms and alerts that we've analyzed and have issued, top threats, top users. All those key details are perfect to bring up during those quarterly business reviews.
Well, I'll let you share your screen, John. I believe you have some stuff that you'd like to show everybody on the call today. So just give me one quick second. I'll stop that share for you now.
Absolutely, yeah. So as I mentioned before, we're going to hop into a quick hacking demo, if you will. So this should be pretty interesting for the audience. Really just a way to show you how easy it is. Not to scare anybody, but it's just the reality, right? Of course, there's sophisticated attackers and attacks out there, but what we're seeing, at least from our perspective, is people are taking advantage of the easy stuff, right? And that's what we really focus on. So let's go ahead and get that up. So I'll be playing the role of both the attacker, and I'll switch over to another machine and play the role of the victim. So you can kind of see both perspectives there. Great. We will just go ahead and share that. And you should see two windows right here. One is a tool called ZFisher, and that is a tool that's going to help craft brand impersonation links and pages for me. And then I already have a pre-written email here and I'm making it look like it's coming from Microsoft. So there's a security alert here, or what seems to be one, of course. But let's get right into it. So I'll go ahead and select option 4 on zPhishing. And you can see that corresponds to Microsoft as well as there's other ones here, Netflix, PayPal, all the popular things that people like to spoof, right? But in this case, I have Microsoft, and I'm going to copy that link that it generated for me. So not very hard, right? I clicked one keystroke, option 4 for Microsoft. But now I'll go ahead and paste that link in on the email over the verify your identity text there, right? So we'll go ahead and send that off. And this is where I will flip roles and play the role of the victim. So there we go. So that email was sent through. I click on that and you could see, there we go. So to me as the end user, well, it looks pretty legitimate. Microsoft account security alert. We think someone's accessed your account. So this seems pretty, pretty significant. Should probably fix that, right? So it brings me to a web page here, and I'll go ahead and put in my credentials. And really the only dead giveaway is the URL at the top. But if I wanted to, I can maybe get a domain that looks very similar to Microsoft's, maybe one that has an extra letter or a couple letters flipped around. But in this case, I'll just play along here for demo purposes. I'll click sign in. And then if we flip back over to the view of the attacker, you can see this was successful, right? So I have the username and the password there. Now, what am I going to do with that? Well, I'm going to head over to the actual Microsoft sign-in page there. I will put in the username and, of course, the password as well. And that's fine. We'll stay signed in there. Now, what does an attacker do? Well, they want to maintain persistence, right? So what do we typically see? Well, the attacker will go over to the Outlook settings and they'll go to rules, add a new rule, and I'll name this something inconspicuous like admin. I'll just bump this out a little bit here. And my condition is, let's see here, we'll look for a subject, right? Subject includes, and I'm an attacker who wants to steal some money. So I'm going to look for emails that have to do with wire transfer in the subject. And the final action will be to, of course, forward that over to me. And I'm going to put in my attacker email address. This will send to my account. And I could even have the original email never show up to this compromised account. So they'll never know the email hit them or that it went to me and not to them. They won't even see it. But in this case, we'll leave it in its stock configuration. We'll go ahead and hit save on that. Now we're back to the view of the victim, and I should be receiving an email. I was expecting an email, a wire transfer. So perfect. There we go. That did come through. And you can see here, I have the text and I have what looks to be PDF attachment, right? That's all legitimate. But what did that email forwarding rule do? Well, if we hop over to the attacker view, I'm going over to my email inbox, and this is the email that I put in there. You can see I have the exact same email, text and attachment, right? So this is where you can start seeing where that could go wrong, right? Monitoring that communication, like you were talking about before, Luke, right? Really learning how they conduct business, intercepting these wire transfers, and now maybe reaching out to the person who sent this and saying, hey, spoofing the other person's email. Hey, listen, we've changed our information, actually. Can you go ahead and route this money to this account number, right? And now you're out maybe $50,000 or whatever the amount is. So
it happens rather quickly, doesn't it, really?
It does. You saw that did not take long at all. I did not need to have a lot of knowledge, right? It was a simple tool that's freely available, and it's just a couple of keystrokes away. So
after seeing what you've just done, I'm a sales guy, and I reckon I could have a pretty good go at trying that myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I love how automation's now helping the bad guys as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Luckily, there is some protection out there, right? And basically, the whole crux of what we talked about today is providing that visibility, that monitoring, in case this technology does, fail in some cases, or maybe not fail, but there's new indicators of compromise. There's new vulnerabilities that happen, right? Again, a firewall that is in good standing and patched up today can be vulnerable to an attack tomorrow, right? We saw that with Log4j, Log4Shell, right? That was a big thing in the news recently, right?
Yep.
So having that continuous monitoring. So
I think
can
probably
actually take a look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably some of the big things that we do, just to give people a better idea, the three main things that Scout really does offer to the channel is we give you the ability to operationalize your SOC SIEM solutions. So you're partnering with Scout to actually supply you the resources to actually operationalize those and make it available for you to be actually able to sell these services with minimum amount of investment on your part. I think the other thing that's really good about what we do with our offering is we're very vendor agnostic. So we do support multitudes of different technologies from various different vendors. So there's no need to go in and rip and replace all your hardware in order to get our solution working. In most situations, we can actually work with a lot of the products you already have there, which not only saves your customer money and time, but also helps with those budget constraints that we've seen over the past couple of years. I think the second thing we do is, as I mentioned earlier, we make these presentations available for you. We have a really stringent onboarding process, and we will actually help train you to be able to go out and have those cyber conversations with your own customers, which we feel is very important. You understand the business, understand where their focus is, you understand their planning for the next 12 months, so you can actually go out and have these conversations and get an understanding about where your customer desires their security posture to be. And I think the third one is something that's quite often overlooked is we will help you grow your business. Customers at the moment have an appetite for security products. And I think the key thing is really being able to sell the benefits and the merits of what these products are offering. The market is becoming more and more full of various different providers. So I guess I'll hand back over to you, John. Give them a quick demo of the screen, go through all of this, but this will give you a better idea of how much visibility we offer, and how we can help you sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to confirm, you can't see the Barracuda Scout dashboard there, correct? All right, awesome. Yeah, so we're going to follow the same way that we did that attack, and to show you where we can provide that monitoring, that continuous monitoring, to make sure everything is okay, or get that alert if something does look suspicious, right? So we're taking a look at that multi-tenant dashboard right here. So what did we start with? It all started with an email that was sent out, right? That phishing email. So let's talk about that layer. Well, providing some visibility around email protection. So I'm going to go ahead and filter to dangerous emails, because that's probably what that email would have come up as, right? The brand impersonation email. So filtering to just those. And you can see here, I'm looking at my threat types, and I'll filter that to brand impersonation, because that person was trying to impersonate a brand, i.e. Microsoft. And then we can actually take a look at the analysis results down here. So you can see here, perfect, right? Brand impersonation. This message appears to be impersonating Microsoft, but it was not sent from one of their domains, right? That's that first layer of defense, that email. Where a lot of the attacks really stem from. So being able to look at that layer first. What happened from there? Well, the user unknowingly put their credentials in, their Office 365 credentials in, and the attacker got those credentials and then signed into the actual O365 portal, or the Microsoft login page there. So let's take a look at that. Dedicated section for Office 365. And if I just bump out my demo data here a bit, we should be able to see a geo map that plots every single login or failed login, right? You can see how that could be useful. Timeline of that information based on country, IP, ISP, the user, right? And picking up on those patterns, right? So maybe there's a user that never logged in from a location before, and now all of a sudden they are. or maybe they're logging in from a foreign country for wherever the business is operating from, or in relation, I should say. You probably want to get an alert on that. And that's some of the examples of things that you can see with O365 monitoring. All right, so we went from the email to stealing the credentials to logging in. And then finally, it was the email forwarding rule, right? Again, what if that email forwarding rule was never detected by the user, right? Who would go into those settings and check for forwarding rules? I don't do it too often. Most people don't, right? Because they're not expecting their account to be compromised. So now it's maybe 200 days down the road, and now you find out about it. Well, geez, for 200 days or maybe even more, I've had an attacker reading every single email that has come through, right? So we'll jump over and be able to show a little bit of that. So it was a forwarding rule, right? So forwarding, right? Search for that. And there we go, right? So getting an alert as soon as something like that happens. So you can see here, Office 365 forwarding rule created. Of course, it gives us the user, so we know exactly which account this happened on, the IP address, and of course, the date and time on that. So there you go. That's a very good example of every layer providing that continuous monitoring and alerting for our partners and, of course, their end customers.
Could we flick up a quick report, John, if that's not a problem, just to quickly flick through and show the people how powerful the reporting mechanism is? As John sort of mentioned, this is a great report to use during quarterly business reviews. They're fully white label, but I'll let you take that over.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can definitely white label those. You have some pre-canned reports down here. Monthly executive being pretty much the bread and butter there, giving you an overview of everything that the portal has to offer and putting that into a PDF format, right? So if we go ahead and jump into one of those, be able to demo that for you. Yeah, so again, we can just straight away download that as a PDF. Of course, we can modify that report and change the data. So different data, or maybe keep the data, but put it in a different format, right? Change the graphs around, that sort of thing. Filter, we could add filters to just look for specific types of data. Or maybe, I don't know, specific IPs or users. But if we just take a quick look, right, we get a nice agenda here. And this will go through each section that the report has to offer. Threat advisories. So these are great. These actually come straight from our security operations center. So on a usually weekly basis, they put together reports of what we're seeing in the industry, right? Of course, you could see there a couple Log4j, some vulnerabilities on some Windows systems, really keeping you up to date on what's happening in the industry, right?
With those advisories, I can sign up on the website with Scout and actually get them sent through without actually being a partner. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And Jared will probably help us out and maybe throw that link up in the chat, but you can if you go to getscout.com. There's a section for threat advisories that you can sign up for free. So
wow, that's a great resource for free.
Yep, exactly. And you can see here they're pretty detailed, but easy to read, right? You don't need to be a cybersecurity expert to sort of understand what's going on here. We really do break it down, right? Section by section. What is the threat? Why is it noteworthy? What's the risk or exposure to me based on the systems that I have, right? And of course, those recommendations. So is there a patch that needs to be applied? Is there no patch and we need to take it offline or something like that? We'll go ahead and detail that all out here, right? Awesome. So you can definitely sign up for those and read these on your time. For now, I'll go ahead and skip past those. This is where we start getting into the pretty graph section, right? Security Operations Center information. You can see here our workflow. And of course, the alarms and alerts. So those alarms are going to be things that have been picked up by our security information and event management tool. And then our analysts look at all of those alarms, and then we transition those, or some of them, they get transitioned to an alert. So we're filtering out, multi-stage filtering process here. Events come in, they hit the SIEM sends alarms, the SOC analysts look at those alarms, and they filter out the false positives and just send you the alert. So you don't have to worry about millions of logs or thousands of alarms, right? And in most cases, not even a ton of alerts either, right? Maybe just a few a month, of course, depending on the size of the organization, number of users, number of devices. But couple tens or even maybe 100 or so is much more manageable than millions of logs and thousands of those alarms there.
I think that slide really shows the power of what we do. Imagine some of the smaller businesses out there trying to handle the 3,500 alarms and actually get to them, work out whether they're real, not real, whether we need to allow, block, or investigate. We take a lot of that heavy lifting out, meaning that you're only having to deal with the issues that we've been able to identify that are definitely going to be detrimental to your business or your customer's business, which means saving you time, saving you money, and allowing you to focus on what you need to be focused on rather than looking through, a lot of alarms that may have been raised that could not lead to anything.
Yeah, exactly. And then scrolling down here, you can see a breakdown further of that information. So not just a number of the alarms and alerts, but what was the breakdown? Were they high, medium, or low severity? And what were the top ones, right? You could see here, Office 365 single sign-on login error. And of course, there's a few other ones here. Looks like the top ones are really focused around Office 365 in this particular demo account. Benchmarks. So yeah, comparing your organization to others that we monitor, those top incidents. So I use this as sort of a way to be proactive, right? So let's say continuous brute force attacks. Well, that happened 392 times. That seems to be like a big issue. Now, again, this is demo data, but running with the scenario here, I would look at this and say, guys, I think we need to maybe be proactive and do maybe IP address blocking on the firewall. Let's go ahead, run a report, get those IPs that were doing the continuous brute force attacks. Let's go ahead and block them on the firewall, right? Let's try and get that number down a bit there. Just scrolling through this, again, more breakdowns on the tickets, looking at the closure codes and any open tickets that may be there. And sort of a similar data here located in a table format. Email protection information here. So again, emails analyzed, breakdown of those here, top targets. So who in the organization is receiving the most caution and dangerous emails. And of course, endpoint as well being a big attack vector there. So looking at all the threats there, if we had any malware that was quarantined or potentially unwanted programs, pups, of course, you get all that good information there. Yeah.
Thanks, John, for shooting through that. I guess being very mindful of time, guys, as you can see, we get very, very excited about what we're selling. I think that's a brilliant attribute. But being very mindful of your time, I would like to kind of hand it over now where maybe we can possibly go through some of the questions that we've had to obviously help answer some of these for you. Now, I do understand that the viewing of some of this has been rather short, but we will actually supply you with some further information about how you can book time with both myself and the other resources within Scout. So we can obviously go through this in more and further detail for you and your team so you can get a better understanding. I think the key thing to remember about our product is it's just not a product to sell to your customers. We are signing up many MSPs who are using this product to actually secure and get a better understanding of their business, their infrastructure, and what they've got deployed as well. So it is a great tool and asset. And I guess adding that SOC team to your team basically gives you the ability to be able to handle more and give your customers confidence that you also have a team who's fully developed and built around security, overlooking what you're currently doing for your customers to offer that additional level of peace of mind. So I think that's really important moving forward. So I guess what I will do is I'm just going to have a quick look now through the chats just to see if we can answer some of the questions for you to help you guys out. So let me just get this underway. So obviously you've seen the link shared by Jared in the chat. Feel free to sign up and get your free threat advisories there. As John pointed out, all of those messages are available and ready to go when you need them. The other thing we wanted to point out as well is you can sign up and get your first month free with Scout at the moment as well.
Yep, absolutely. See a few good questions in here. Let's see. Just bear with us here. Yep. So it looks like, so if we are already a Barracuda partner, does that automatically make us a Scout partner as well? Um, so, uh, so to answer that question, so sort of Scout is a different offering, but we do have great incentives for current Barracuda partners. And yeah, we would basically schedule a call, go through in detail everything that Scout has to offer, figure out if it's a fit, and then yeah, kind of take it from there. Great, and
John,
Luke, if you want to jump in, you can.
yeah, John,
also.
I'm happy to give a call. So this product is available for all Barracuda partners to
Yep.
sell. Obviously, we'd love to go through and teach you a little bit more about the product in order to be able to give you guys the skills and the assets that you need to enable to be able to sell the product to your customers and have these discussions. So I'll reach back out to you, John Eric, over the coming days, and we'll get this organised to see how it can possibly fit in with your customers.
Yep, absolutely. Next question. Looks like, does this replace Barracuda ESS and Sentinel? That's a great question. So no, it doesn't. We have, Luke alluded to this before, that we have many integrations, right? We are vendor agnostic. So although Scout is part of Barracuda now, we were vendor agnostic, integrating with all the big firewall manufacturers, all the big, endpoint protection manufacturers out there, again, maintaining an open platform. So what we would do with ESS and Sentinel specifically is ingest the logs from those systems, right? That would be part of that log security monitoring, and really tapping into those logs and putting them in our SIM and doing the event correlation with all the other events that we'd be ingesting.
Ben, I actually see this as a great way to actually integrate and get more, sort of visibility and information on your clients. Obviously, what we can do here is bring in, as John alluded to, the Barracuda Sentinel product to be monitored. And I guess what we're doing there is we're just giving you greater visibility in the product. And for those of you who are looking for that one screen, this is probably getting closer to where we've got the one portal where you can gather and garner all that information. Rather than having to rely on multiple different portals to log in and build that information from. And as John mentioned, even the value of that reporting mechanism for existing Barracuda partners who are looking to increase, their customer security posture. The minute you start throwing in, your firewalls, endpoint, and all those various, you're going to get a lot more holistic view of what's actually going on for those customers out there.
Yep. Great point. Let's see, what kind of notifications is integrated with the solution? So if by notifications, you're talking about the alerts that come through, to sort of tie it back to our vocabulary that Scout uses, hundreds, probably close to 1,000 now of notifications. And that's, of course, broken out between different technologies, right? So each group of technology gets a chunk of that close to 1,000 rules or notifications. So, and of course that depends. Our red team within our security operations center builds all of these rules in-house. Really, really talented group of folks there that are in the industry, and they know about the attack vectors that are being used, and they're going to go in there and create those rules. And we could also do custom rules as well. So if there's something that we're not alerting on, then they could go ahead and create a custom rule or use case for your need. And there was a second part to that question, if I may here. Does this work with PSA systems or ticketing systems? It does. So there's integration with ConnectWise, ServiceNow, and Autotask. So you don't have to be, rummaging through the email alerts, which of course we do send out. But if you have any of those ticketing systems there, we can skip the emails and send them straight to there, and you can have the bi-directional conversation with the SOC from your PSA system. Awesome. Great. Jared put that link in there for the threat advisories. Awesome. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for questions. So great questions there.
Perfect. I guess key thing for everybody is don't forget about our free promo where you sign up now and get your first month free. If you'd like to look further and investigate what we can do in more detail, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to jump on a call with you and your customer. We're even happy to deal, directly and even help coach you in those endpoint conversations to help get you up to speed so you can start having these conversations with your clients. I think the most important thing out there is, be aware of the various new services. I do think that this service does fill a hole for a lot of our customers out there currently. We've been through the same process ourselves, Barracuda APAC, with hiring, new staff, and it has been a challenge. The skill sets out there are high demand. There's not a lot of people available. And I'm sure it's the same experience that a lot of you are seeing out there. And I think the key thing here to remember is with Scout, it's all about visibility of what's going on inside your network. I think we've all used products in the past that we may or may not have actually utilized correctly, just due to the workload that came from those ticketing systems. But I guess the beauty of the service that we offer is, as we mentioned, is we'll help take that heavy lifting and only supply you with the alerts that you really need to action, which means that you can spend more time working on other projects or focusing on other parts of your business rather than spending your nights up worried about how your customers are. Are your customers going to be affected? Is there an incident occurring right now? And I think that's where the true value is. This is very much about remediation, stopping the problem before it becomes an issue. And a recent study we saw in Gartner said that some companies are going to spend a lot of money on focusing on their security platforms over the next coming 2 years. Because in theory, if we can remediate or stop these attacks before they happen, there could be close to up to a 90% saving in most incidents and how much they cost. So for spending a little bit of money, you can actually help avoid some of the challenges that we've helped discuss earlier. And I guess, having that unseen visibility is really key for you as the MSP in being able to offer that service to your customers. So once again, sorry for taking so long. Thank you so much for all joining the meeting today. Absolutely have loved having you here. John, appreciate you taking time out of your busy evening in a cold New York evening to join us. Really have appreciated it. And I guess on that note, thank you very much, everybody, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Take care.